Is it Robinson Crusoe Light or is it something more? Howdy and welcome back. I'm Mike, your board gaming every dude, and this is Dieson Crusoe. Dieson Crusoe, so this is part of the solo game of the month. This is from Gabe Barrett. Is it Gabe Barrett Publishing too? No, this is Best with One Games. So Gabe Barrett's the designer. He reached out to me. He's done several other successful campaigns, including the Hunted series games as well as others. He's got a podcast, board game design podcast. That's actually where I've learned a lot about the board game community, the industry, and all that. Anyway, he reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in featuring this. It is already funded on Gamefound, but there is going to be late pledge available. So the link to follow the project will be in a pinned comment and in the description below, as well as any corrective notes that need to be put in because I'm always needing to get corrected all the time, every time. But anyway, this is a solo game that you can learn in about 15 minutes. The play is 30 minutes according to this. I think it's a 30 to 45, 30 to 60. I'm in the 60-minute range. I'm always on the long end whenever I play. And I think it's one player only. Yeah, this is one player only. Anyway, solo game of the month is going to be, there's going to be a new solo game every month launched to Gamefound. I believe they're 98% complete when it goes to, crowdfunding. And it's $5 shipping to get to you, ships directly from China. What else? There was something else featured. That's why I have this computer here, so I can get all these details to you so you know what to expect. And then I'll tell you about the game. What do we get? Okay, yeah, so no add-ons, no stretch goals, and they are limited edition, which means they don't go to retail. So if you back it, you get it. That's it. This is $25, $24.99, something like that. The goal was to raise $5,000. It's raised $36,000. And I will say up front, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I will consider backing a late pledge because I do want it, and I like this case. So first, let's talk about the case, and then we'll talk about the game. So this is the case it comes in. It's like an old school 90s when you go to the library and you get a VHS. That's what I have in mind here. But the thing is, this helps with travel. I like this. It's classy. It's cool. Let's look at how the game plays, and you decide whether it's the right game for you. As always, I'm not here to pressure you or to hype you because I'm not good at that. I don't enjoy it. That is not my thing. But I can show you the game and we'll do a little nuances afterward if there's any negatives that I can think of. All right, how do you play? Have you ever played Robinson Crusoe by Ignacy Trzewiczek of Portal Games? This is very similar, very, very similar. However, is it just like a light version? No, because this is actually a pretty complex puzzle. You will fail a lot. Fortunately, it allows you to scale the difficulty by completing different missions of different difficulties. Like the intro mission is it's not a walkthrough tutorial, but it's kind of a tutorial. It's a practice run. Anyway, and it scales in difficulty as you do missions. So what you have in front of you and what you will get are these two, I believe it's microfiber, these two microfiber boards right here. And then you've got your couple meeples that you place, some supply icons, dice that you roll, thus the Dieson Crusoe, tools that you're able to make, and then you've got different heroes. I call them heroes. I guess they're characters. So you can place the Craftsman, has its own ability. There are other characters like Hunter and Pathfinder, and they have a normal side and a more challenging side if you want to play a harder game. But they each have special abilities that you can use to help you, and there are additional special items for certain missions. You also have friends that are able to help you that have their own special abilities. So I've got my friend Bilson instead of Wilson, and then you got Tom and Stitch. Each one of these has a special ability that you can use as you play the game. You pick one of them, or you start the game with none, and you have to find them by getting an item. These are the different quests. You've got Quest 1, starts you out. Quest 2, a different goal. Each one has its own goals that you have to meet, and they get more and more difficult as you go through. You can also, there's another way to scale the difficulty, I believe. When you flip this over, we'll get to that. Oh yeah, you scale the difficulty by starting without your friend. I already mentioned it all. Yay! All right. What do we got going on here? We've got the island that you, as Mr. Crusoe, are wandering through in order to survive and complete the mission. You start here and you get opportunities to move and gain resources from these spaces that you go on to, or to hunt when you're in a certain region. For example, I'm in this region, I can hunt the rabbit. How does hunting work? We go over here, I'm in the region with the rabbit. I have to have an attack value of 2 in order to beat the rabbit. If I have an attack value of 2, I gain the resources. In this case, food and hide. There's also raiding that happens depending on which region you're in. In this area, when a raid happens, I would lose 1 food. The raids get worse in the more severe areas. So if you've got the cannibals or the wolves, the foxes, the deer, different abilities and different raid terrible things to happen. We've got our quest that we need to complete. I've got quest 2 here as a sample. So my quest is to get my little meeple to the top of the mountain and to make a flag. To make a flag, I'm going to need to gather these materials. 2 lumber, 4 skins, I'm going to need to have 3 stars, and it requires a rope. So first, I'm going to have to make the rope, which has its own requirements of materials. Once you make the rope, you gain the abilities of that for the rest of the game. Pretty cool. The little icon here tells you, I'm getting too detailed. I'm going to stop being so detailed. That's how you travel around the map. Fun things happen. This is your time tracker. So you'll see there's green, yellow, orange, and gray. That's based on the quest. So the first quest, you only have 6 rounds or 6 days to complete it. Then I get to quest 2 and I've got up to 10 days. It gets harder and harder. Each time you advance a day or a round, something awful may or may not happen. It's written right here. It tells you exactly what to do. Most of the action in the game, actually before we get to that, let me show you my friend Bilson. How your friend Bilson works is you're able to take an action to move this little disc over, and as you move it up, you're able to then use that ability to gain something. So if I get this here, I can then return it to the beginning and gain that food. Or if I go all the way up, I get to gain 2 food. So you can use your friend to go out and basically gather or do stuff to help you out. It's great. Back to the game. Oh my wow. Over here, this is where the game happens. This is where all the actions are. What you do first is you roll 3 dice. Boom! It's Dieson Crusoe. It's a dice placement game. You're able to spend resources in order to re-roll dice if you would like to do that. Once you roll them, you place them in order right here from lowest to highest. And all the iconography helps you. I will mention my one. Honestly, I don't have a lot of negative about this game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But one negative is down here where the food is. Mr. Barrett, if you could do some kind of indicator to remind me how much food is supposed to be there at the beginning of the game. I know that seems so silly, and I believe it's 2 food, but I have this thing when I'm setting up the game, if I have to consult the rule book, especially for a small solo game, it drives me nuts. It just takes a little bit away, and that's such a little thing to ask, I know, but everything else is I know where to start with everything else because of the icons. I just need something to remind me. Is it 1 food? Is it 2 food? Is it 3? Maybe the icon's on there, but that's pretty much my nuanced little critique there, that I would just love to see that so I can set up the whole game without ever looking at the rulebook again. All right. I placed my 3 dice. That means I get to take 3 actions by placing these dice. Well, where do I place them? Well, I start out in the daytime, right? And I go the afternoon and the evening. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pick an action by placing it, placing it down here. You'll see I get 1 action, 2 action, 3 action. So I take the 3, or I could take the 4. Just for the sake of this, let me do this. I've got a yellow, so I'm going to put the 4 down there. That's my first action. What that means is my meeple is going to move 4 spaces. It's a yellow dice, so I have to move forward and throw dice around. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Wherever I land, I gain that benefit if I want. That's one of my options. One of my options is gain that benefit. So I would get to gain as much lumber as I have stars. What on earth are stars? The stars are based on the dice you put. So I put a 4 dice. That means for this action, I have 2 stars. A 4 is worth 2 stars. A 6 is worth 3 stars. So on and so on. So I put that there, so I have 2 stars, which means I would get 2 lumber. I would take 2 lumber, put it, I have 2 lumber. Yay, that's one option that I can do. If I don't want to do that, instead, I can move my friend Bison up 1. If I don't want to do that, then I can craft an item. In order to craft the item, I need to have the supplies available. So let's pretend I had 1 food and 2 lumber and 2 hide available. Boom, 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 boom. Then I could be like, you know what? Instead of gaining this benefit, I'm going to make the rope. But I can't because I only have 2 stars. The rope requires that I have 3 stars or a dice of 6. There are abilities from friends and other things that can increase your star value as well from building items and things like that. I don't have that at the moment, so I can't do it. But let's pretend this was a 6. I put it there. I have 3 stars value, so now I can, which you're supposed to leave this up here while you do the actions to help remind you. 3 stars, so I use up the items, boom, and boom, and boom. Now I have the rope. I just mark it like this, so that I know. I'm not sure if that's how I'm supposed to do it, or you can move it into your play area. This isn't how you have to set up the game. I do this for camera's sake. All right. Those are your actions when you take your turn. Then you go to the next dice. Place whatever one you want next. So we move this down here. There's 6. Super cool. So we're in the daytime. Boom, boom, boom. Let's use the gray dice, for example. So now I get to move 4 spaces, but the gray is special. It can move forward or backwards. So let's go backward. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I get to move on the map. So it tells me I'm allowed to move as many stars as I have from my dice. So I have a 4. That's worth 2 stars. So that means I get to move forward just 1 space. It's always just 1. However, the stars matter because if you look at the map, each region is identified by a star level. The star level gets higher the further inland you go. In other words, I only need 1 star to cross over into this region. But I would need a 2 star in order to cross into this region, and a 3 star in order to cross into that region there. So I would take my turn, I'd move 1, gain the benefit, in this case it's food, boom, and that's that. All right. We put this down here. We take our next action. I'm not going to walk you through all the icons. It's fairly easy to tell. And I skipped something in the very beginning. Of course I did. I always do. Because we start in the morning. And in the morning is the event phase. In the event phase, we'll put all these back here. We'll pretend they were in some order. Lowest to highest. 3, 4, and 6. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. All right. The event phase, you always move this disc, the event disc, the number of spaces of the lowest one. And you're reminded, the icons tell you this. There's the disc. I go 1, 2, 3. Then you apply whatever benefit or more likely negative thing happens. And this just keeps circling around and around. In this case, I would have to add a 2 to my raid dice over here. So it would go from 1 to 3 because these all started at 1. Cool. Then we would go to the afternoon, which we already did, and take all of our actions. Then we go to nighttime, which is, of course, when awful, terrible things happen, and you try to prepare for that in your action phase. Well, what on earth happens here? We walk right through. You have to sacrifice or eat 1 meal a day. So here we go. That's health. Let's take away 1 of these. If you don't have enough food, you have to take away a health. If you don't have enough roof and shelter and things like that, you end up having to take away health. If you run out of health, you lose the game. If you complete the quest, you immediately win the game. Oh my wow. Okay, so we ate our food. Now we apply the weather. So we look at our dice down here to know what to do with weather. Lightning doesn't do anything that I'm aware of unless you get to certain quests or have certain items with certain abilities that have the lightning icon. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Gabe. All right, so we go straight to weather. My weather is at 1, which means it's sunny. Nothing happens. I love it. If this were, say, a 4 right here, if this was a 4, then I would lose 1 roof. You end up building roofs through your actions right here. If I don't have the roof, then I would have lost 1 health. So we'll pretend that was a 4. Then we go to our raid and apply it. We have a 3, nothing happens. There's only a raid if this is a 5 or a 6. Let's pretend if it was a 6, I would apply the raid that's on the animal in the current region. So I would lose 1 food if that was a 6. Cool. Now we remove these 3 dice. These are ours to roll in the next round, and we slide these 3 down. So that's how you can see how you're planning ahead, because now we have a 3 and a 4 and a 6. We're going to have a raid next time because we placed that there. We are going to lose a roof at least because we place that there, and then of course 3 there. So you can see that there's a lot of strategy in how you pick your actions, because you're also picking your negative consequences. After that, we move our marker up a day, and we keep going until we win the game. That's how you play. What do you think? I love it. I don't have any more nuanced things to say about it. I love you all. I'll see you next time.